Hello, I'm Saraya and this is It's About Youth.
And I'm Faye, Kwan. And today we're looking to speak a little bit about fresh graduates, given that the Department of Statistics Malaysia recorded a 4.7% increase in the number of graduates in Malaysia. Now that adds up to 5 million people, Mia.
Yeah, Faye, and on top of that, there are also many youths across the country who perhaps graduated during the COVID-19 pandemic who face challenges in employment and wages. So on the show today, we have Zaim Mohzani, who is the Director of External Relations in KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific, as well as Anasofea Ridzwan, who is the former Deputy President of IIUMSU Student Union, who is also a fresh grad and a job seeker. So Anasofea, you just graduated like over a week ago. What sort of challenges do you face in this transition towards entering the job market?
Right. First, thank you so much. Like Faye mentioned, 4.7%. I'm one of the real-life example, and also the real-life example of fresh graduate, just graduated 9 days ago. So one of the hardest thing that I realized when it comes to this transition is, when it comes to the market out there, we know that the minimum wage was just being increased from 1.2K to 1.5, right? But the problem is, regardless of any kinds of job in Malaysia, whether low, semi, or high skills job, most employer would tend to go for the starting of that minimum wage, 1.5. So basically, when fresh graduates like me, when we go around, we'll be seeing jobs starting from, even semi and high skills. It will be starting from 1.7, 1.8, 2.1. So regardless of the opportunity out there, we find it hard to actually, I would say,
Sustain,
yeah. To find a job, regardless what it is, which can conform with the, I would say, basic or minimum standard of living in context KL. That doesn't cater to other people from other places. But for us to live with the rising costs, as well as to find a job that would adequately return or pay us with that, that's the challenge.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're not alone in this, Anasofea.
Oh, if I tweet it, surely I am not alone.
Yeah. Viral.
Exactly. And Zaim, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. What does Anasofea's worries and her experience tell us perhaps about the structural issues within our labour market in Malaysia?
Sure.
And perhaps how should we address this?
Okay. The Malaysian economy is structured, unfortunately, very heavily towards low-skilled workers. This is why we have a lot of foreign workers. The government, the country, mostly the economy, private sector, government. If you look at the jobs that we have, plantations, manufacturing, low-skilled services, a lot of these jobs, if you look at the data, is scary. Quarter of the economy, actually more than that, is actually geared to low skills, and only about 20% are for high-skilled jobs. And so what it tells you is, when you go out to work, you are ready, but the market isn't ready. So the jobs that you find are low-paying, they are long hours, the environment may not be conducive, right? People call it the 3D, difficult, dangerous, the 3D jobs, right? Now, what can we do about this? The government, actually, to be fair, has done a lot. Recently, they launched Jamin Kerja, Keluarga Malaysia, which basically means job guarantee, Keluarga Malaysia. And the idea is to create 600,000 jobs. The good thing is, they target vulnerable groups, young people, women, including single mothers, housewives, ex-convicts, a slew of them, orang asli, orang asal. And to be fair, it has been working. 4.8 billion ringgit, and they have, what we have seen is the unemployment rate has fallen to 3.7% in July. Now, here is the problem. Under unemployment, right? If you have seen recently, there was a story of a graduate that studied chemistry. She got an honours, but she's working in KFC. The story went viral, right?
Oh, yeah, I heard that. Mm-hmm.
So this is the problem that we're facing now. The young people have qualifications, but when they go out to work, they work at this low-paying and low-skilled
Yeah,
jobs.
the job mismatch.
The job
sort
mismatch
of situation.
So it is a very complicated issue. There is no such thing as a silver bullet for this. Mm-hmm. You need a policy. You need sort of a lot of things that you need to do to tackle this issue. So you're talking about education. You're talking about regulatory, legal amendments. We can talk about that later on, about the Employment Act amendment. Mm-hmm. The government is doing a lot, but obviously more needs to be done to tackle the issue.
Right. What about you? What do you think about what Zaim said, about the job mismatch? Do you actually have, friends who experience the same thing? Yeah, maybe tell us your comments.
I think I would say I experienced it firsthand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, what Zaim said, it's true. He said that I perhaps may be ready to seek a job out there, but the market isn't. When it comes to this job, the problem is Malaysia, we lack of positions, roles, or employments for semi and high skills. That's the problem. As I mentioned, we cater mainly. I mean, there is an abundance of job out there, but as mentioned, it only cater to low skills, which goes back to minimum wage, just focusing around that area. So that's basically what we're facing.
So if I would also like to add, this is all sort of interconnected, and basically with this low-skilled jobs only available, we also see this growing phenomenon of brain drain, or also like we see an exodus of youth like crossing over to perhaps Singapore for better job opportunities and wages. What do we actually do about this?
Sure. I think this is a very interesting question. So you look at the data, and this is the old data by World Bank 2011, 2012. Over 1 million people are overseas, 1 million citizens are overseas. Half are in Singapore. And 1,000 are in Australia, and then some in the UK, and some in the US. Okay? Now, it is a good and a bad thing. Bad because the skills that we need, these are really talented people, are overseas, contributing and building the economies of foreign countries. Why is it good? Because brain drain is only one part of the equation. Another part is brain circulation. These people, some of them actually come back and they contribute to the country. If you look at the recent case of Jaya Rashid, he came overseas, he came back, he was the CEO of PNB, then he became CEO of Bajaya. He actually just left the country to Singapore. But it's not necessarily a negative thing, because as long as we have ways for them to come back and contribute to nation building, it will be okay. Now, I think it is a problem when too many people are leaving the country. But in Malaysia, I can safely say it is not an issue that we should worry too much, but we should just focus on the talents in the country, because don't worry about getting them to come back. Worry about people not leaving the country in the first place. That is more important.
And that really is, we have to focus on tackling underemployment, wage stagnation, as you've mentioned, because I think the statistics out there do show that underemployment has risen by 33.9% in the past year. And so it really is an issue. I'd like to really, as we know, the budget 2023 will be tabled on October 7th.
Yep.
I'd like to get both of your thoughts on this. Perhaps, Anasofea, we can start with you.
Yeah, what are your
as
hopes?
a fresh graduate, as someone who's entering the labour market, looking for employment, what do you hope to see in the budget that would be relevant to you?
All right. For me, when it comes to budget, we have public sector and private sector. I mean, people say we cannot depend too much on the government because they did much fairly, to be said. What I hope in the fresh budget is that they would table something that would provide people with living wage, we call it. Yeah, living wage is actually being defined by central bank as a wage that could accommodate your living as a prosperous member of the society. It means it's not just food, clothing, and also a shelter. It goes beyond your ability to participate in the society, to self-develop, etc. It's not referring to wants, it's just referring to needs. So this idea of living wage, I hope it can be implemented in a budget where it will help or it will promote to reduce unemployment based on places in Malaysia. I mean, to be fair, the cost of living in KL is different from Terengganu and Kelantan.
Absolutely.
So this living wage goes back to the cost of what is fairly to be paid for people here and also people at other places. So when it comes to budget, just simply to be said, perhaps they need a little bit of more targeted, what do we call that, quota, or
Yes.
a specific quota to actually compensate the employer. If they were about to take fresh grad youth and this unemployed person, what can the government assist or make it easy for these corporate people, perhaps some tax reduction, etc., that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So definitely this requires perhaps more data, more research into certain groups and what they would need, targeted,
Yeah,
what you need.
targeted.
Yeah, what about you, Zaim? What do you think should be in the budget?
I echo what you said, so I don't want to repeat your points. I think you're right. employment incentive. Jamin Kerja is actually one of the initiatives. I have two on the wish list. First, Jamin Kerja should be permanent. Make it permanent. So not only maintain the program, make it permanent and expand it. Make sure that people like yourself, when you go out to the job market, the government can subsidize your salary up to 1,200 ringgit, for example. So when you come out, minimum wage is 1.5, the government tops up 1.2, becomes 2.7,000, and that's great. Obviously, some people will say this is socialism, this is not great, but I think where we are now, the country with such low wages, we need a lot of push from the government to make sure that we can pay people living wages, which is gaji bermaruah. Because it's not enough to provide 1.5k, especially living in KL, it's not enough. You need to provide living wage, gaji bermaruah, decent work, right? Second on the list is the Employment Act amendment. So you may have read this. There was an amendment to the Employment Act 2022 where a lot of amazing things. They reduced the working hours from 48 to 55 hours. Maternity leave is from 60 days to 98 days. Paternity leave is new, 7 days. A lot of good things, but unfortunately it's been postponed to next year. Right. So my wish list is the government's listening.
Expedite it.
Let's do it now.
Right. This actually brings me to the next question. So we're talking about wages as well as work-life balance. So I actually understand that Anasofea did degree in economics, but then is planning to pursue sort of in public relations. So this is a common trend among the younger people, kind of going for passion aside from wages. So what do you have to say about this?
Going from passion aside from wages?
Yeah, like some people would choose passion or and work-life balance.
Having a more fulfilling work-life
Yes,
balance.
exactly.
Understood. So if we go, I may not be able to cite like some data here, but if we go down to the ground and ask the normal youth out there, those who are chit-chatting at the cafe, etc., they would say the same thing, that most of them would ended up going to places which is totally different from their education background. And this is due to the reasons that, first, nowadays we find that there are more variety of new kind of job name, title or job scope that doesn't exist back then, perhaps during 10 or 20 years back then. Now we know there's biochemical engineering, we know there's credit analyst, there's content creator, digital marketer, which these names we didn't heard back then. So that's why when the youth out there, when they come out to the job market, they realize two things. Either they would resort to the job that is already there, or they would resort to job that is needed outside there, but it is not yet discovered. Like this content creation, etc., that wasn't being discovered 10 years ago, but now is there. That's why when the youth nowadays, I realize they are more curious than ever. So whenever you find something new, an opportunity that is not there yet, and they'll just take it. So hence why the youth. And one more thing, passion and wages, fresh grads tend to, according to the groups, B40, M40 and 20, M40 and T20 especially, they tend to have no to lesser commitments than those who already have family, etc. So they have that space to try something new. But once somebody commit to a family or already stay in a proper job for a while, then they wouldn't be they would of course go to that wages side instead of focusing on what are the things that they can be passionate and discovered about.
Right, understand. Unfortunately, we have just a bit of time left. There's so much more that we would like to, deep dive
we've just
into.
scratched the surface.
Yeah, but then it's all right. This is all for the episode today. Thank you so much once again, Zaim Mohzani, who is the Director of External Relations, KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific, as well as Anasofea Ridzwan, who is the former Deputy President of IIUM Student Union. I'm Saraya. This is It's About Youth.
And I'm Faye Kwan.
We'll see you in the next episode.